Okay, I'm going to kick us off. Thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Jessie, and I'm the newest executive director at the Japan Society of Boston. I think some of you may be familiar with the Japan Society of Boston, but for those of you who are not, we're one of about 40 Japan America societies across the US, and our mission is to promote cultural and economic ties between Japanese and Americans to promote understanding between the two countries, business exchange, and community building. We hold events like this, as well as in-person events, and we have other activities. So if you're interested in supporting the work of the Japan Society of Boston, we'd love to have you as a member or see you at some of our future events as well. Before we start, just a little bit of housekeeping for all of us. If you wouldn't mind putting your name, like renaming your video using the three dots in the upper right corner of your video with whatever name you used when you registered. That'll just help us check who's in the room against registration. If you're not comfortable putting your full name first and last, if you would put at least your first name and last initial, that would be very helpful for us. Also, to give the full stage to our speakers and moderator, we just ask that you please mute yourself so that we don't have any additional background noise in the room. We are going to have a final 15 minutes for audience Q&A, and we'll be taking questions via the chat function. So feel free to drop any questions you have into the chat at the end when the Q&A starts, or really anytime throughout the event as they come to you, and we'll be curating the questions as we go for that final 15 minutes. All right, I am super excited to intro everyone who's a part of this presentation. This event is very close to my heart personally because I just became the executive director a handful of months ago, and this was one of the first projects that I kicked off shortly after joining. So I'm so excited to see it finally come to fruition and see so many people here to join this exciting discussion. I'm also a converted Japanese bath skeptic. When I went over to Japan, I wasn't sure about that whole bathing culture, but I'm totally convinced of it now. And so I'm really excited about this particular project. So the folks that we have joining us today, we have Kohei Yamamoto, who's a first-class licensed architect and carpenter, and he is the founder of Soma Kosha, which is a traditional Japanese carpentry firm based in Okayama in Japan. Before he founded that school, Yamamoto-san worked on many famous temples and shrines, including the Grand Shrine at Izumo, which is one of only 2 grand shrines in Japan. He's one of the first carpenters to reintroduce the traditional Ishibatate style, which I admit I don't know what that is, but maybe he can tell us, style of construction to the modern era. He's an expert in traditional hand tools and joinery techniques, and he educates students and apprentices from around the world at Somakosha School. He's the one who crafted the bath that will be used at OnsenKoguma in Vermont. Also joining us is Matt, who operates the Winterfound Forest Farm, which will be the home of OnsenKoguma in 2026. Matt is a regenerative agriculture expert and permaculture educator with over 11 years of hands-on farming experience across 4 continents, and he's transformed 140 acres of what was once derelict farmland into a thriving regenerative showcase, and he actively hosts educational programs for the broader community at that farm, Winterfound. Sami is joining us as well. He's responsible for the infrastructure innovations to help meet OnsenKoguma's net zero target. He's managed multi-million-dollar projects founded by the World Bank, leveraging his expertise in solar-powered water systems, mineral chemistry, climate-resilient design, and sustainable urban development in Pakistan's frontier regions. And guiding our discussion today is Demi. Demi is an assistant professor at Northeastern University's School of Architecture, and she holds a PhD in building technology from MIT. She teaches structures to architecture students at Northeastern and conducts research related to mitigating the environmental impacts in early-stage building design. She's conducted research in Japan through the Japan Society for the Promotion of Science and has facilitated symposium discussions on the opportunities to combine technology and craft in Japanese traditional carpentry. Outside of teaching and research, Demi actively contributes to industry initiatives to mitigate embodied carbon in buildings. And also very excited to say that Demi is a JSB member. So thanks, Demi, for your support of JSB. And to kick us off and tell us a little bit more about what this OnsenKoguma project is, I'm excited to hand it over to Ryan, who's the founder of Koguma Benefit Corp and also a JSB member. Thanks, Ryan.
Hey, thank you so much for the introduction. Yes, my name is Ryan Patrick Barry, and thank you so much for the Japan Society Boston for giving forum for this amazing panel. It's going to be an awesome discussion. I'd just like to give a little bit of context as to why we're all here. My wife, Ryoko, and I founded Koguma Benefit Corp, which can be described as a collective of individuals, institutions, and craftspeople across Japan, the United States, and the world that all sort of gather around onsen culture and explore what that might want to look like if it were to come to America. And we operate under the name OnsenKoguma. And the anchor for this seminar is our 2-month cultural pilot, which is happening in February and March on Matt's farm in Vermont. And it's a rotenduro or outdoor bath. I just want to talk quickly about Benefit Corporation because it is sort of a North Star for us. It's a formation entity whereby profit and purpose sort of are written into law. So one can think about Patagonia as a good poster child for that. So we structured as a benefit corp to protect our commitment to authenticity. But really, it became much, much, much more than that. It became like our moral and spiritual compass because as a benefit corporation, one has to ask at every turn, at every decision, is this reciprocity or is this just pure extraction from a business standpoint? So in asking that question, it's brought us into contact with amazing people who live and embody that question, reciprocity or extraction. And four of those people are here today on the panel. I'm going to turn things over to Timi in just a second. Yeah, you've had their introduction. So let me just kind of quickly share this with you. And we'll go here. Okay. So yeah, I'd just like to talk very quickly. So I'm going in order of who we met. So first we met Sami because we needed to know about water. But what Sami taught us was design can be both technical and spiritual at once. Next, of course, Yamamoto-san. Working with him with the tub, and he taught us the art of embodiment and inner stillness that we certainly need. And then from Matt, we learned that the land on which something exists or is being built is, in fact, probably the most important teacher. But we learned all of this in reverse because we came at this from a startup culture. So we designed this, and we were going to launch this winter. Just see. By the way, sorry, guys. Yeah, boom. Look at that. It's a beautiful Sukiya style, luxury positioned bathhouse. But in asking that question, reciprocity or extraction, sort of, we were able to slow down and find stillness and humility and came up with a more exploratory method for our pilot project, which is this. Yes, this is a big box store, prefabricated pine wood greenhouse. And as most of you may know, in Japanese bathing culture, there are two areas, right? There's the araiba, which is the area where one washes and may change. And then there's the soaking area. And this is going to serve as the skeleton for our araiba. By applying yakisugi techniques, we're able to expand its life cycle from 15 years to 80 years, resulting in 2 to 3 tons of carbon savings. So it's not just going to be this, right? It's going to be yakisugi applied to it. And then we're going to add our found and sourced materials from Japan, rescued materials, if you will. We have Sento grade hardware, and that will all be fitted in there to look something like this on the exterior. And inside it will look very much like a Sento or a Japanese bathhouse. Next up for that structural talk, there is, of course, the housing for the soaking area, which is the bath. And that is here. This is an Azumaya, and it is designed by the amazing Robert Baskett, who is a talented young timber framer in our Vermont community with a passion for Japanese joinery and finishing technique. And so he's going to be crafting this. Um, and he's going to be working with John Stollenmeyer, who is co-owner of Somakosha and Okayama. So this will give Robert an opportunity to expand his skill set and learn from a master and share his learnings with the Vermont Timber Framing Company. So this entire pilot happens under our 501(c)(3), which was created to foster learning, right, through the spirit of onsen. And of course, at the center of all this is like the touchstone of what we all aspire to honor, and that's Yamamoto-san's masterpiece, the ofuro, or the tub. And here you can see that. Soak that in or soak in that, right? Finally, yeah, I just want to say I carry around with me a copy of Tanizaki's book In Praise of Shadow. Um, and it serves not only as inspiration, but as like a kind of lexicon for understanding Japanese aesthetic and spatial principles. And in his book, he explores what lives in the shadows. And so we have the perfect person to explore that. Like, what are the possibilities that live in early stage design that may be overlooked? And the person who's going to guide us through that sort of shadow walking is Demi. And we're so honored to have her. So, Demi, with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ryan, for the very nice introduction to the project, and thank you, Jesse, as well for the introduction earlier. I'm so glad to be facilitating this conversation with an amazing project team on this onsen project, and I think Ryan set us up for that very well. What I appreciate about this project and this panel, tonight's panel in particular, is we're looking at three different areas of expertise that really bring the whole project together. So we have timbercraft represented by Yamamoto-san, and we have the water systems engineering piece with Sami, and of course, the stewardship of the land itself from Matt. So I think how I'd like to spend the next 30 minutes is to start with the timber carpentry and craft piece with Yamamoto-san, and then we'll kind of start to zoom out and think about the project's system as a whole and sustainability questions more generally. So Yamamoto-san, I'd love to start with you. Can you tell us a little bit, so that tub is really one of the stars of this whole project. So can you tell us a little bit both about the wood that goes into this piece, how that was selected, what's special about it, and anything else you'd like to share about the process of designing and constructing this piece, which may have been a unique experience for you.
Uh, okay. So, hmm, I don't think I can talk well. So anytime, please help me, support me, please. So the reason I picked the Yoshino Hinoki, the material came from another region for this project, is because the bathtub is always having the stress from the hot water. So that needs to be stable enough. So I especially picked the what do you call leaf cut sawn, the mill, the really nice quality, the Yoshino cypress wood for the bathtub for the stability. Then also the resource of the cypress I got is from another region. Then the over 1,000 years, the people keep maintaining the system of harvesting the wood. So it's almost eternally we could keep supplying the same quality of the wood. So that's I believe it's matching what the ideas Elian just said about the sustainability, the humankind, the daily life. So
Great, thank you. So that's about the wood itself. And how about the tub? What was your experience designing and constructing the tub? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
okay. So yeah, like I said, there's so much stress that came from the environment to keep the receiving hot water. So it needs to be non-using any hardware. So I used full of Japanese joinery the techniques like sliding dovetail and then the cutting a mortise and the tenon with the wooden wedges. So also calculating the how much the wood can expand because the bathtub size is quite huge. So I tested the making like a temporary situation or always one side the wood the receiving hot water, then the calculating the how much that what do you call the shrinkage, the how much extend and the shrink. So I ended up to the bring that the ratio into my design. Then depend on each the section of the joinery. So I believe, I hope I picked the right joinery system in the bathtub.
Yeah, beautiful. So you designed it so the joinery could shrink and expand with the difference in temperature and water. Great. So speaking of the forestry practices that was carefully considered for the sourcing of the timber, Matt, I'd like to turn to you with your special farm out in Vermont. Would you like to tell us a little bit about the farm, and then maybe we could tie it back to, this the long-term forest management is a very big question in Japan, and if you'd like to share any comments on similarities and differences that you see in managing your farm.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, like Ryan shared in the intro and Jesse, this farm was it's been settled by Europeans since the late 1770s. So it has a long history of agriculture here. And unfortunately, that hasn't always been best practice. It's been skimming the fat off the land in a lot of ways, and that has left a certain mark on this land. And so when I got here, it had been a hobby farm previously, and thin soils and just low vibration, really. And so it needed to be uplifted. And so what I did was just start planting as many trees as possible and getting animals on the land. And to me, what that is restoring ecosystem links, looking at natural systems and mirroring them, and so that we can have an agriculture that mirrors a forest system if possible. And so thinking of the forestry here, I think we often have this idea in modern agriculture or in modern civilization, that human agriculture is a negative thing for the environment. And I think when we do it right, not only is it not bad, I think it can be a net positive thing. And so by managing appropriately our forest resources, by having a light footprint and maybe a heavy handprint on the land, then we can actually uplift as a keystone species, humans being keystone species, uplift these environments. So, thinking of forestry, that's in permaculture terms, that's the zone furthest from the home, but it's still an important one. And in Vermont specifically, we have a deep attachment to our forests, and a lot of them we manage as our sugar bush. So long-term management is not a foreign term for Vermont farmers. We're actively managing land to promote sugar maples, and not only sugar maples, but a diverse forest setting for the long term, because it's old trees that we want there. And there's a lot that comes with that. We can do a lot of different things besides just sugaring in those woods. We can be harvesting shiitake logs. We can be growing ramps and golden seal on the forest floor. So, yeah, that's, we definitely have a lot to think about in terms of long-term forest management, but there's actively things being done. And I'm trying to do a little bit of that here.
Yeah, that's beautifully put, and I think it's a great fit for this onsen to be sited in a place where you think so deeply about these things. And so, of course, to make all of this work, Sami, your work was integral to making sure that the tub and all of the operations could work on the land. So, would you like to speak a little bit about some of the special considerations that you had working on this particular project and with this particular site? I know with an onsen project, the type of water, for example, is a pretty important consideration. Yeah, just like to open it up to you to share your work on this project.
Yeah. So we talked about this before the beginning, and first of all, I was new to the climate of Vermont, so we talked a bit about that, about the wet climate, the freeze thaw, and the other idea was to make the system in harmony with the nature, because this is something we wanted to do. Life is such going at such a frantic pace. I think this project is a way out for all of the people, and I wanted that to be possible. And for that, we decided that we need something as a pilot project. And for the pilot project, we need something to be that requires minimal excavation and something that is reversible and at the same time that can be used for some other purposes as well. With the water quality, we did make sure to achieve that as well. And apart from that, our goal was like Yakisugi, the idea when I studied it and Ryan floated around, I really loved it. I'm in love with the Japanese philosophy of wabi-sabi, the perfection in imperfection. So yeah, and that way we actually decided to prolong the life of something that isn't used that much, or probably that is probably hurting the environment, uh, the greenhouse or etc. So that was something we did, and for that we actually wanted to preserve the nature, and yeah. So the main goal was to create a system that is in harmony with the social dynamics of the forest land as well, because that was something very important, and we took that into serious consideration.
Great. So by social dynamics of the forest land, can you explain a little bit what you mean by that?
So in order to understand, like it's not just a farmland, you have to understand there are other things that live there as well. And for a system to be established there and for a system to be installed there, we have to not we have to make sure that we don't disturb the environment. We have to be in harmony with that, and with that, like uh, it's like a seamless transition into the nature. So if this is something we want to be a part of nature, so it has to be a part of nature seamlessly. So that's what I meant by the dynamics that is going on around the project and the farmland, especially Matt Strong farmland. And we thank you.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Wonderful. Again, I'd like to start to zoom out to think about systems and sustainability, how that's treated in these different cultures that we have represented here. So Yamamoto-san, if I could start with you. Could you talk a little bit about, sustainability and the SDGs are gaining significance or importance in Japan? Can you talk a little bit about any new trends or changes you're seeing in your particular line of work related to sustainability and interest in it recently?
Okay, that's that question. Um, like I've been working as a carpentry, especially for doing the traditional type of work. Then, if I compare with the modern, the technique for the build to something, the versus the traditional one, I realized the one things. Traditional sides almost not using, what do you call that English term? The Niji kakohin, which is you modify a lot. Like it's not like a natural material. So traditional building, they're mainly using like a natural resources like stone, wood, paper. So almost people never touch anything, which means you're not spending the so much the energy, the resources for making a material. So also when you're thinking about the end term of the building, so the all of the material easily return to the earth. So comparing the modern technique and the traditional the style, I think yeah, the point of view of the sustainability, the traditional, the method is making a lot of sense to me.
Great. And you also work with, the next generation of carpenters as well in your practice. Can you share a little bit about how you talk about sustainability and these ideas with them?
Okay, so I'm having a school teaching people not only for joinery cutting, but also the idea of the building. So the since I don't know, people invented so many technology for make our life better, but it's a double-edged sword. So people keep sacrificing spending time and energy. So what if you could leave the small like a small idea, so make the house a little bit smaller, the wide enough for example, there's the famous the greatest history, the philosopher Kamo no Chome, who used to say that so people can live with the three tatami mat, just sleeping and doing a little stuff. So that's the minimum size for the people. So, but it's so uh, tempting to keep expanding our space to the outside. So it's fun, but we there's also word we call the chuyo, which is a stay in the neutral. So it's easy to the having a bias to the right side and the left side, but if you keep focusing on the where you're standing on, so even if the building that you need to use, so we can reconsider what's the best size of it. So I'm kind of trying to share that idea in my school.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Um, just a heads up, we'll start taking questions in about 10 minutes, but I did see one that I think is relevant to maybe ask to Sami now. So Sami, there was a question about, whether the water is reused in this system. Could you share?
Yeah. So basically, the idea in the long term is to reuse the water. Right now, we are actually planning to use the old Japanese way of infiltrating the used water into the ground. So the idea is to use the old methods to be inclusive of the local ideas, because since this is a Japanese project and we wanted to make this authentic. So for now, since this is a pilot project, so our plan is that, and moving along, of course, that will be our main aim.
Great. Let me just take a look. Um, and actually, Ryan, would you like to address this question about, I know, so this is a pilot for February and March, and it will be open to the public to see and use during that period.
Um, all I can say is that for now, anyway, um, you should be a Japan Society member, and that's the only hint that I can give to until we make our full announcement. So
That's good.
join.
Great. Great. So let me come back to Yamamoto-san. So on the topic of the next generation of carpentry in Japan, I'm thinking about you know, construction and carpentry in the US looks very different these days. It's highly industrialized, and this kind of apprenticeship and craft tradition is still strong in Japan. I'm just wondering if you see any trends about, whether this apprenticeship craft for carpentry specifically, is it still something that is going strong, or is there worries about whether carpentry will be taken up as strongly by the next generation? What are your thoughts or views on this so far?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So like a old-fashioned way of practicing teaching the next generation is definitely uh is getting not popular anymore. So like traditionally we learned from our the masters without any words. So they always says just keep watching it. So develop your eye to look at something. then that's a quite a high context the way of approaching a learning or something. But you know, a lot of Westerners, like American people and other country planters come into my workshop, and then I'm trying to figure out what's the best way I can teach, I can show them. So I'm trying to making the style like a hybrid way. So yeah, we definitely need to communicate in the language, but also if we teach the 100% in the word, it's nothing the people can teach. So like I said, so you really need to develop your eye or your sensor that you can scoop up like a detail the things that happening in your the things, not only for the carpentry technique, but also like I always says everybody the expert of brushing your teeth. So without any logic, right? They think you really knows the how you supposed to the brush up the behind your, the deepest the teeth in your mouth. But yeah, there are so many the details of technique for each person to, yeah, it's hard to explain, but yeah, just trying like that.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing. It's such a kind of bodily piece of knowledge to pass on. Um, Matt, I'm curious in your area of regenerative farming and the kind of vision that you have for your farm. These kind of practices, what are your perspectives on kind of passing these practices on to the next generation? Is it things that people are learning in the classroom, or is it a little bit similar word of mouth training? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd say in general it's word of mouth, but I'm encouraged by the way that some high schools and middle and elementary schools are integrating hands-on agricultural gardening work into their programs, and I think that feels like in its infancy in a lot of ways, and maybe it's been stagnated for a little while like that, and we need something to jump it out into something more expansive. I think Vermont is a great testing ground for that. It has just an ethic around it, and somehow being in this place feels like you want to be outside. So I think people people just get it maybe a bit more, and I see a lot of young people wanting to come into farming. I volunteered on farms around the world in my 20s and learned by doing and learned from mentors. So just like carpentry, I think it's something that you just have to be around. And ideally, it's diversified small farms so that people feel like they can be exposed to many different aspects of agriculture, and then they can go from there into maybe something more specialized, or continue this notion of a mosaic of small farms that is spreading throughout the country, and we can feed our people from smaller farms.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks for sharing those ideas and thoughts. All right, just one more heads up that we'll start to take questions from the chat soon. So feel free to start typing them in, and Haley or Jesse will help to kind of start that Q&A session. But as we're waiting for some more questions, maybe leave just a few more minutes open to any of our panelists to add any last comments on their experience working on this pretty unique and multicultural and really beautiful project.
I think I just add one point about that water question before. We're very grateful to a previous farmer here at Winterfound who I don't know, and I don't know exactly when it happened, who put in a spring box about a quarter mile uphill from where the onsen will be, and did the very hard work of trenching a frost-free line all that way over to here. And so we luckily have frost-free, gravity-fed, so no pump necessary water all year round, and that comes bubbling right out of the earth, and can rehydrate the land after its use too. So it keeps us conscious of what we put into that water. It's the water I use. I live in a hay barn from the 1790s that I've converted here, and I use that water. So it's both a blessing and a reminder to do best practice.
And that's really special. Thank you to the unnamed farmer. Yamamoto-san or Sami, any last comments?
Yeah, so I would like to add a few. We talked about this project in detail, and it is close to my heart for several reasons. First of all, first the spiritual connection and everything, and then we come to the later the engineering part. My own philosophy of life is the philosophy of doing something should come at the foundation, and everything should be erected from there. So when I talked to Ryan about the project and how authentic it looked to me, I realized that this was something I wanted to do. And with that, for example, our main idea in this was to reduce the water usage. And for that, I can assure you that the system that we are using is 40% more, is using less water, 40% less water than the actual shower that we use in our regular bathrooms. So that is something, when that adds up, it really helps a lot. And in addition to that, I would also like to add something about the life of the whole project. Since this is a pilot project and we needed a lot of materials, different types of material, and we took the sustainability component with regard to each component. The overall body that we actually managed to establish or install over there, and that can be bought from the Home Depot. So that was something we wanted to show people that if you want to care about sustainability, it doesn't need to be very expensive. You can change the cheap things into become much more sustainable. And we did that by yakisugi, by extending the life from 20 years to 80 and 100 years. So that was something that we wanted to do, and that is something our goal is. And with regard to the reuse of water, that is our plan. But since this is a pilot project and we are in initial phases, so we wanted to infiltrate that water into the farmland. Yeah, I think the time.
Thank you, Sami. Yeah, I especially appreciate that note about material efficiency and how sustainability doesn't need to come at an additional expense all the time. Great. And Yamamoto-san, just any last comments? I know there will be very, very interesting questions for you, but just want to give you a chance in case you have anything else you'd like to share.
Oh, I want to add one more thing about the context. I think when I built something, we just should the design, the context, depend on the people, who's going to use that building, depend on the outlet, depend on the situation. So if you the design of something specifically the one things, it's kind of you can't extend that building anymore. But just to make a rough like a rough context the space, so the people can play along with this the space, even at 300 years later. So the building doesn't need to be the building for the onsen. So that could be a public space, church, the school, so anything. So I think the idea is could be the part of a sustainability idea. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'll turn it over to either Jesse or Haley to moderate the questions. And I'd also like to shout out, I see Robert Baskett is in the audience, and I did hear from Ryan that he will be building the structure over the onsen. So glad to see you here.
Thank you, Demi, and to all of our panelists. We do have some questions coming into the chat now, and folks, feel free to keep sending them. I'll be sort of curating a selection if we don't get to all of them. But to kick us off, question I guess I'll ask Matt is where exactly is Winterfound Farm? And maybe you can put that in context for folks who don't know the geography of Vermont so well.
Yeah, we're in central Vermont, the town of Barnard, which may be a more recognizable close town is Woodstock. So about 2.5 hours from Boston, 4 hours from New York. Yeah, it's small town, very rural, but just the right setting, in my opinion, and a very agricultural agrarian community. So the very people that will understand the significance of a project like this.
Thanks, Matt. Glad to hear that it's only day trippable distance from Boston, and I expect we have folks from around New England with us today. Um, Next, I will ask Sammy, how exactly will the water be heated for the bath? Can you speak more to that?
Yeah, we have a system established for that, and currently, like we have different phases for that system. And since this is a pilot project, at the moment we are using a particular system that we designed, and the fuel is bipropane for that, and we will do that with that. In longer run, we have several other options, and we are taking that into considerations. Once the whole project and the business model becomes viable, we will certainly look into that, and we will certainly be sustainable in that regard as well.
Yeah, and if I can just add very quickly, biopropane is just um, sort of new and not readily available everywhere. So it's been tough to source that, but we found that source. So
Yeah, just to be sure that it is one of the most least effective. Yeah.
Great. The next question I'll ask is to Yamamoto-san. We have a multi-part question here, but the first I'll ask is whether you use any glue in your construction of the tub.
Oh, actually, I didn't use any glue, so just finished to buy the traditional Japanese joinery that I believe what do you call the rigid inner for keeping that the box shape. So the having the stress from the water is sounds like a kind of a negative point, but at the same time, the water always trying to give the wood the expanding way. So which means if you can cut the joinery on correct way, so yeah, the structurally the bathtub is gonna be much stronger than yeah the usual situation. I mean the dry state. So I hope that should be fine. But I'm just the one thing's concerned about. I never built the bathtub that much the size. So if you pour the full of the hot water, it's gonna be the huge, the lowered. Like I don't know how much the tons. It might be a 1.5 tons. So I'm a bit worried about maybe half of the water should be fine.
we're running tests. Don't worry, Yamamoto-san. Perfect.
And Yamamoto-san, I'll follow to you. It sounds like a very delicate, precise calculation of the expansion and contraction of the wood that you use for the joinery. Vermont is quite a cold climate in the winter. How do you feel that that has affected your construction of the bath?
So I just saw the Azumaya, how it look like right now. Then it seems like the building doesn't have the wall or the also the cupboard with the yakisugi credit. Uh,
It will
I'm
have
asking. Yeah.
sorry, so it will have a roof and it will have Yoshizu
Uh-huh.
around. So it will be protected on three
Hmm.
sides from
So
wind, but not inside.
it seems like a half outside, right? So I'm worried about the wind situation, like the less than the 0 degrees situation. So yeah, water so might be frozen. So we really need to be yeah careful about the situation. Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm. And with I can say with Sami, we've been discussing, and also Matt as well, how to maintain the hot water flowing in a way that will um, prevent anything from freezing anyway at that point. So it's going to be learning. Yes.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm gonna ask you a few questions next. Is there anything that you can say about how the project is being funded and also what your longer term goals for the project are, whether you intend to expand it or not, to the extent that you're able to share today.
Yes, absolutely. As I showed in my introduction, started from this product, right? And then we went to Japan and actually went into onsen every day, sento or onsen every day, and slowed down. So yes, the project does have a future. We've met with many amazing people who are shaping the future of this. We can't announce just yet what the future will be, but it is expansion. Um, it will be more, it'll be on a somewhat larger scale, and then we have future phases. But as far as funding, um, my life savings. I didn't put down a down payment on a house. I threw everything I had into this, and um, because this particular aspect of the project is a 501(c)(3, it we won't be charging admission. It'll be donation based. So for those who want to come and experience the sustainability, the operations in terms of finances will be based on donations, and we're still working out what that looks like. So
Thank you, Ryan. We're gonna shift gears from the more practical topics back into the more philosophical, perhaps. But to ask Yamamoto-san, this member of the audience really enjoyed your reference to Kamo no Chome and the three-mat hut, and is wondering whether you see Kamo no Chome as a symbol for sustainability and respect for nature in your work, or whether you could speak a little bit more to how Kamo no Chome, in your mind, relates to the project.
So like all the time when I have a client who want us to build the house, so the initial like a briefings, they always says, oh, I need this much space of the room, and I needed two bathrooms, and so it's easy to dream about your idea of the house, but when you look at the real house, I'm always trying to escort my client to bring like a small world, the house, like yeah, thinking about the maintenance of the house and the daily cleaning, and then yeah, heating up the house. Like if you can build the house, the small size, so with just a small amount of firewood is working enough for heating up your house, right? Then if you don't have much enough storage space for your clothes and shoes, so yeah, eventually you don't feel like just keep buying your shoes. So it's okay to the someone who make want to have a really big house. That's your choice. But yeah, if you think like suspending your the brain resource for the doing something else, maybe one of the idea for you living the small the way, so you can expand your potential the human activity to the other things. You can still celebrate the house when you open the doors, so you can touch your nice the wooden handle. When you step on your floor, you might feel the nice the kind of plain finish, or the texture came from the ass, the hewing. So yeah, it's so many uploads. Just one of the potential idea I'm trying to explain the my philosophy of the building. Then yeah, it's the matching each other. That's I'm really glad. Yeah.
Thank you. I think in your answer, you touched on, your approach to some of your other projects, Yamamoto-san. And I'm going to call back to one of the first questions raised in this session by Jessie in her introduction. Can you talk a little bit more, maybe explain to us what is Ishibatate as a style, and maybe share a little bit more about what projects you're you're typically working on besides the bath?
Okay, so let's talk about the Ishibadate first. So Ishi means the stone, Ba means the position, Tate means the standing on, so which means the building, your house is just standing on the stone. Then stone connect to the earth ground. So, as you know, the modern technique of the building, even the wooden structure, like the stick frame and the post and beam style, that's the foundation is made by a concrete with some sort of the fastener, which is okay. But the traditionally people used to just grab the nice amount of the size of a stone from the river, then the village people sitting on that stone on the property, then the carpenter just built the house. The post is standing on that stone. So simple. Of course, there's so many the details, the technique, like the knowing frost depths. So people used to did a little prep work underneath of the stone. We call that a wari, which is a huge size of the gravel. So thinking about the water, the streaming, the drain out. So in case of not, in case uh, the water freezing. Mm. Then, yeah, that's the one of the things of Ishibadate style. Then other things, the structurally, we never used a diagonal the piece. So diagonal, the structure frame makes the wooden frame more the rigid. Also, like the plywood stuff with a lot of nails that makes the frame really strong. But it's too strong because, as you know, in Japan we have so much the earthquake situation. Then the building always having building always shaking, so it needs to be kind of flexible. So thinking about you standing on, you're taking a train or something, because the train is not the stable. So always having the effect from the railroad situation and maybe brakes. So uh, if you imagine that the legs is fixed on the floor of the train, so the leg bones gonna break, right? But if it's not the fasten on the ground, I'm talking about the building. So worst case scenario, so the house can, how do you say, move around, the dancing on the earth. Also, not having a diagonal frame. Instead of that, using a Nuki technique, which is a horizontal, the substructure for supporting a frame. That's a really a genius idea for absorbing any type of the load that came from the outside of the environment. So it's hard to explain in the talking with my poor English, but something like that. I hope you guys understood.
Thank you very much. I think we have one more question here in the chat for Matt. Wondering about how the onsen being located on the property might affect the operations of your farm, and whether there will be any opportunity for folks who visit for the bath to also learn about regenerative agriculture practices.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the beauty of a farm like this, that we're on a public road, so neighbors go by, but there's also two Airbnbs on the property. So in a way, I'm already used to people from other places coming onto the farm and having this opportunity to engage with people who maybe have never been on a farm before, or maybe have a certain idea of what agriculture looks like. And then, hopefully I get to, tell them a story that gives them hope about how it can look. So to me, this project is just like that was framed in the question, is an opportunity for education. Um, the where the onsen actually will be is surrounded by overwintering cows and sheep and chickens and pigs. So it's nestled right in the heart of the farm. So it's almost like, people who come there are going to have no choice but to experience the farm. And, it won't take me necessarily to have to explain things with words like Yamamoto-san said. They'll just be able to absorb it in that experience. But it is an awesome opportunity to be able to talk with people who are interested as well.
Thank you, Matt. Now that we're kind of back to the onsen and what folks can look forward to in February and March of 2026, Ryan, do you have any closing comments from your end?
Yeah, so I would say for more information, certainly stay in the loop in the mailing newsletters of Japan Society Boston. They've been an incredible supporter in this from day one. And also, if you'd like to connect, you can email connect@onsenkoguma.com, and we'll roll out information as we announce it.
Thanks, Ryan. I think we are about at time, so I want to thank our panelists, Yamamoto-san, Sami, Matt, our moderator, Demi, and Ryan, whose vision inspired all of this. I think it's been so fascinating to see how one project can bring together folks from, countries around the world, from different disciplines, but all with, this shared respect and appreciation for this Japanese bathing culture and Japanese carpentry and as well as the same goals around sustainability. So we're very excited to see where the project goes. I am going to share just to close this slide about JSB. As Jesse mentioned, we're always hosting diverse events that bridge New England and Japan. So we hope that you will join us for a future event or consider becoming a member. And as Ryan hinted, we're very fortunate that our members, we expect, are going to enjoy some exclusive access to this pilot iteration of OnsenKoguma in early 2026. So please do stay in touch and look out for some announcements around that if you're as excited about this onsen in Vermont as we are. With that, I'm going to close the session. Thank you all so much for joining, and have a good night and a good holiday season.